واغتنم بالتقوى وجنبنا الباقي المراحل. طيب, so we left off, last thing we covered together a few weeks ago was how to make a complete wudu, right? We talked about how to make a complete wudu, and there was a question someone asked, what happens if, you have something stuck under your nails and you can't get them out? Remember we discussed last time that you have to make sure you remove all the stuff that's under your nails. So if you have dirt, if you have, paint, whatever it may be, you have to get everything out from under your nails in order for your wudu to be valid. There is an opinion in the Shafi'i madhab that the things under your nails, if you have things under your nails and your wudu is still valid. All right? So it makes life a bit easier for us. Basically, the principle you can live by is try your best to get things out from under your nails. If you don't, if you can't for whatever reason, or you forget, then it's okay. All right? So the author continues now talking about the ritual bath, or what they call ghusl in Arabic. He says if one is in a state of janaba because of sexual intercourse or the emission of sexual fluid during sleep or otherwise, it is necessary to wash the whole body with the intention of removing janaba. Okay, so we talked about removing ritual impurity through wudu. Now we're talking about removing a stronger form of ritual impurity called janaba. In Arabic, they call it janaba. Okay, that's the term he uses as well in the book. Basically, someone must take a ritual bath, must mean ghusl, if, for example, they have intercourse, whether it's halal intercourse or haram intercourse, whether it's with their spouse or not their spouse. As long as they have intercourse, they have to take a ritual bath. Both parties must take a ritual bath. The second thing that causes someone to have to take a ritual bath is if they, as he states it, if they emit sexual fluid. Essentially, they might have a wet dream, or they might force sexual fluid to leave their own body through their own means. Okay, so whatever it may be, whether it's using their own hand or their spouses or something, or they have a wet dream, if they have sexual fluid leave their body, they must also take a ritual bath. The third thing that requires one to take a ritual bath as well is a woman if her menstrual cycle ends. So she's on her period and her period ends, now she must also take a ritual bath. And the fourth thing that requires one to take a ritual bath as well is if her postnatal bleeding ends. Postnatal bleeding is a form of something that occurs with women sometimes, which is where when she has a baby, she'll bleed for a period of time afterwards, similar to a period, except that it's not her regular cycle, it's directly a result of having a baby. When that postnatal bleeding ends, she must also take a ritual bath. Okay? So we covered four things here: sexual intercourse, emission of sexual fluid, a woman ending her period, and a woman as well ending her postnatal bleeding. In all these cases, someone must take a ritual bath. Okay, he says if one is in a state of janaba because of sexual intercourse or the emission of sexual fluid during sleep or otherwise, it is necessary to wash the whole body with the intention of removing janaba. We mentioned how in wudu you have how many intervals? 6, right? We have 6 intervals in wudu that we discussed in the previous classes. In ghusl, you just have 2 intervals, 2 things you must do. What do you have to do? The first thing is you have to make an intention. Okay? Remember, we discussed last class the importance of intention, right? Actions about their intention. Intentions are so we can distinguish our worship from our normal day-to-day actions, our normal day-to-day routine. So someone can take a bath for many different reasons. Because they're hot, because they're sweaty, because they just exercised, they want to smell nice, whatever it may be. You can take a bath for many different reasons. But we want to take a bath specifically for the sake of Allah Ta'ala, because He told us to take a bath if one of the previous 4 things mentioned occurs to us. So we make an intention. It's enough to say, I am taking a ritual bath for the sake of Allah Ta'ala. That's it. All right? You just say in English, I intend to take a ritual bath, or I am taking a ritual bath for the sake of Allah Ta'ala. And the minimum is to say it in your heart, like we covered in wudu, but if you were to utter it, actually say the words, it's better. All right? So you have to make an intention. Okay? When do you make the intention? So we said in wudu, you have to make the intention when you begin to wash your face. Okay? When you wash your face, you have to make the intention. And everything you wash before the intention is made doesn't count. You have to rewash it. Okay, so in this case, your body is considered one limb, one organ. Just like how in wudu, we said if you start, for example, you can make your intention, you wash the top of your face, the middle of your face, the bottom of your face. You can spray the right side of your face with a hose and make an intention that counts. The point is, an intention must occur while you're washing your face. And every portion of your face you wash before you made an intention doesn't count, right? Similarly, in ghusl. So in ghusl, your entire body is one limb. So what does that mean? That means that, for example, you hop in the shower, all right, you turn the shower head on. Where's the water going to hit you first? Might hit your chest, might hit your face. Depends how tall you are, how high the shower head is. Point is, when the water first hits your body, make an intention. Okay? Just say, I'm intending to bathe myself for the sake of Allah Ta'ala. Or I am intending a ritual bath for the sake of Allah Ta'ala. That's it. And make sure your entire body gets wet, from top to bottom. Every single bit of your body must get wet. So just like wudu, if you have something on your skin, you have paints, things under your nails, try to get them off. Okay? Get them off before you make your ghusl. If you have product in your hair that can prevent water from getting into it, someone might use hair gel or something else. We covered that last time as well. Make sure you get it out if it will prevent water from getting to your hair. If your hair is in a hairstyle that prevents water from getting into your hair, you have to undo your hair. Okay? And that will depend. Each person will be different in that. People's hair types are different hairstyles are different. But if someone, for example, has a hairstyle where water cannot get into all the hair, nor can it get into their scalp and the roots of their hair, they have to undo their hair. Okay? They have to undo their hair. Many hairstyles, a lot of braids, okay, water will get into there, right? You just use your judgment. All right, use your judgment. Experiment. But I know, I know people who've experimented in the past. Things like dreads, braids, water will get into it usually. Yeah, for most people, water will get underneath. Just make sure you actually try and get the water in there. You might have to use your fingers a little bit to make sure water seeps in and gets all the way to your scalp and the roots of your hair. So, water has to cover your entire body after you make the intention. Every single strand of hair, all the roots of your hair, your scalp, into your beard. We said in wudu, there's a difference between a thick beard and a light beard, right? In ghusl, every single part of your body must get wet, including all the hair. So just be careful if you have these bits in your eyes right here, or sometimes you have things remaining when you're sleeping. Make sure you get all the folds of your body. So like on your underarms, any folds that you have in your body, between your legs. Some people have, other folds in their body. Make sure everything gets wet and you're done. And that is a complete bath. Okay? That's a complete bath. Most of us, this will happen in the shower. Some people might do it in a pool. Just jump in a pool. Just say, I am taking a ritual bath with Allah Ta'ala. And make sure you just dunk your head in, your whole body submerged, and you're done. All right? But the point is, just make an intention and get your whole body wet. Okay? That's it. It's also good before you make ghusl to use the bathroom and to wash yourself and make istinja. Because a lot of things that cause people to have janaba, to be in this state, involve something leaving their private parts. So when you use the bathroom, it flushes you out and it makes sure that any excess that still hasn't gotten out, any residual fluid, all gets out. You wash yourself, you make sure you wash any fluids off your body, and then you make the ghusl and you're good to go. Okay? And you are good to go. That is the absolute minimum for taking a ritual bath. Okay? Are there any questions? Go ahead.
Does it require your hair to be soaked? Like soaking wet or just like...
As long as, so she's asking, does your hair have to be soaked? As long as hair runs on all your hair and your scalp and the roots. Okay? So that means, you can't just, rub your hand on it while it's moist, like you do in wudu. It just means get it wet. And that is not, it's not that difficult to make happen, even if you have braids or you have a hairstyle. As long as there's something on the hair that prevents water from getting to the hair, like some sort of thick product or something, Maybe if you have, specific kind of hair and really tight braids, it might be hard. For most people, I think if they just, you might use your hands to make sure you get the water in there, you should be okay. Yeah, you should be okay. And you can just experiment. If you're curious whether your hairstyle will work or not, just experiment. Get some water, all right? Spray it, use your hand and, stick something in there and see if it comes out dry or wet. All right? Just experiment. Yeah. Okay? Does that answer your question?
I had a question I wanted to ask last time, I forgot, but about when you said that if we get in a swimming pool, then it counts as a full wudu, as long as we're fully immersed. But in the shower, we're also fully immersed. So why doesn't the same ruling apply to the shower?
So she asked a question related to last class where we said if you're completely submerged in a pool and you make an intention, it counts like an automatic wudu. But why doesn't it count in the shower? So in a shower, your entire body might be wet, right? But all of your limbs are not simultaneously submerged in water. So when you're in a pool and you're completely submerged in water, all of your limbs are simultaneously submerged in water. So you make an intention, I'm intending wudu. You do it in your mind, I'm intending wudu, right? It's almost as if because you're completely submerged and all of your limbs are the same time submerged in water, it's almost like the sequence, which is integral number 6, performing these things in order and sequence, it just occurs automatically. Whereas when you're in the shower, right, the shower, it's hitting you at a specific spot. Your limbs might be wet, right? But if you just make an intention, it won't count because remember we said everything you watch before your intention, it doesn't count, right? Whereas when you're in the pool, everything's already wet and you're in the water. You just make an intention. It's almost like it's simultaneous. It's an instant washing of all the limbs in sequence. So it fulfills number 6, integral number 6. But in a shower, integral number 6 is not fulfilled. Yeah. Go ahead. Other questions? Go ahead.
So for a ghusl, does the water have to be running over the body?
Yeah, the water must run over your body in ghusl. The water must run over your body, okay? Just like how it runs over your face, over your arms, over your feet when you're in wudu. Okay? It must completely run over your body. All right.
So are we supposed to make ghusl on Jumu'ah? Is that like a requirement or?
So the brother asked, do you have to make ghusl on Friday? It's sunnah to make ghusl on Friday. The only time you have to make ghusl on Friday is obviously if you're one of the people who have to make ghusl, like you're, someone spent time with their spouse or they had a wet dream or something like that, and they would have to. Otherwise, if you don't have to make ghusl, it's sunnah to do so because you're going to a congregation of believers, and it's sunnah to clean yourself so you smell nice and you don't, emit any unpleasant odors. You have a question? Did you have a question?
In a tub or in a pool, there's no water running. So I was wondering how you feel the water running in a ghusl.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so when we say water is running, that means that if you were to look at your limb afterwards, water is dripping off. Okay? So for example, I have like a bucket of water here, right? And I insert my hand in the bucket and I take it out. You're gonna see water dripping off. That means this is what we mean by water is running over it or you've washed it. Okay? So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to like pour water on your skin. Either one works as long as the hand gets wet enough where you actually see water coming off. So for ghusl, most of us either will do it in a bath or a shower. If you're in a shower, it's quite straightforward. Right? The water's running over your body. Just make sure it gets everywhere. You get your whole body under the shower head, or you use, your hands to move the water around. Okay? In the tub, imagine you have a tub and you fill it with water. Okay? Just, you sit in the tub, okay? And you make your intention once you fit that you're making ghusl for the sake of Allah Ta'ala. All right, that you're making a ritual bath. And then just, make sure all of your body, gets wet from the water in the tub. Okay? All of your body gets wet from the water in the tub. All right. Any last questions? In ghusl, he's asking, do you have to rinse your mouth out when you make ghusl? You don't have to. It's sunnah, you don't have to. Okay? Yeah.
So if the Prophet said never, ever skip taking a shower on Friday, why isn't it hard?
Why isn't it a farad?
If he never ever skipped it, why is that not part of it?
So the sister asked, she said, if the Prophet ﷺ never ever missed taking a shower for Friday, why is it not a farad? It is, there are some things that are, he never missed, but they're not farad to do. Okay? There are some actions that he's never missed, but they're not farad to do. An example is like the prayers that we do before and after Dhuhr. He never missed them, but they're not farad to do. So the reason we know they're not farad to do is, for example, maybe someone didn't do it in front of him, maybe neglect to take a shower or something before Jumu'ah, and he didn't tell them off for it or command them to do it, which tells us that it's not obligatory to perform. That's not obligatory to perform. There are also possibilities where he might have missed it when he was, for example, leaving on battle or traveling or something. But there are certain things that he was always he never left. But just because he never left doesn't mean that they're obligatory to perform. Yeah. Okay. Any last questions? Yeah. Right. So let's keep reading. He says in the book now. He says. So he says now in the book, he says, he's talking now about what makes you enter a state where you have to make wudu, okay? Where you have to make wudu. He's talking about things that essentially break your wudu, as we call it in English, things that break your wudu. He says, the emission of anything from the two waste passages, front or back, nullifies the wudu. Wudu is also lost upon losing control of one's intellect during sleep or otherwise, unless one sleeps sitting down with one's feet firmly fixed on the ground. Touching the private parts, front or back of any human, whether oneself or someone else, and whether adult or child with the palm of the hand or the inside of the finger, nullifies wudu, even if it be one's own child or a dead person. The touching of the skin of an adult male by an unrelated female and vice versa without any barrier nullifies the wudu. However, touching the nails, hair, or teeth do not nullify the wudu. Okay, so now he's going to talk about what breaks your wudu. The first thing that breaks your wudu that we all know, okay, is when you use the bathroom. Anything that leaves your front or back private part nullifies your wudu. You have to make wudu now after that happens. Whether it's something that's normal to leave that passageway, like urine or or feces, okay, it breaks your wudu. Or it's something that's abnormal. Something has something abnormal, leave their private parts. Kidney stone, for example. Someone takes a button, eats a button, and a button comes out. All right. Point is, no matter what leaves your front or your passageway, whether it's a solid or a liquid or even a gas, someone passes gas. Okay, whether it's in the front or the back, anything that leaves your front or back passageway breaks your wudu. Okay, breaks your wudu. You have to make wudu after it happens, but you have to be 100% sure it occurred. Okay, so we have a really important principle. That means that we say we have a really important principle. The principle is that your certainty is not lifted by doubt. So someone, for example, made wudu. Okay, they made wudu, and they're sitting, in a living room, spending time with their family, and it's time to pray. And they ask themselves, "Wait, did I lose my wudu or not? I can't remember if I passed gas or not, or I felt something, but I'm not sure if anything came out." Okay, they know they made wudu, but they're unsure whether they lost their wudu or not. In this case, they're considered to still have wudu. Okay, they're considered to still have wudu. So because you made wudu and you're 100% sure you made wudu, okay, but you're unsure whether you lost your wudu or not, you don't remember did I use the bathroom or not, I don't remember did I pass gas or not, okay, or I felt something but I don't know if anything came out. Point is, if you're unsure whether you lost your wudu or not, you still have your wudu, okay, as long as you're 100% sure you made wudu. The opposite is also true. Someone is 100% sure they went to the bathroom. Okay? They are 100% sure they went to the bathroom. And then afterwards, they're sitting in their, hanging with their friends or their family, and it's time to pray. And you get up, like, wait a second, did I make wudu or not? Can't remember. You're 100% sure you used the bathroom, and now you are unsure whether you made wudu or not. In this case, you have to go make wudu again. So if you're sure you did something, okay, and then you're unsure about something else afterwards, you have to rely on what you're sure about. Okay? So if you are sure you made wudu, then you're unsure whether you lost your wudu or not, you're considered to still have wudu. And if you are sure you don't have wudu because you went to the bathroom, but you're unsure whether you made wudu afterwards or not, you have to go and make wudu again. Okay?
So, is this exclusive to the Shafi'i school? Like certainty is not removed by doubt.
The brother asked, is this exclusive to the Shafi'i school? Allah. Okay. All right. This is the emission of anything from the two waist passages, front or back, nullifies the wudu. That is the first thing that breaks your wudu. Then he says, wudu is also lost upon losing control of one's intellect during sleep or otherwise, unless one sleeps sitting down with one's seat firmly fixed on the ground. The next thing that breaks your wudu is losing your intellect. Losing your intellect comes in many shapes and forms. Okay? The most obvious one is someone goes insane. Someone goes insane, they're considered to have lost their wudu. Someone goes insane and comes back to being normal, comes back to being sane, they have lost their wudu. Okay? Other forms, other things that consider someone to have lost their intellect in Islam are, for example, becoming unconscious. Someone passes out. For whatever reason, they pass out, they become unconscious. Their passing out means they've lost their wudu. Okay? Someone has a seizure. Okay? Having a seizure is also a form of losing your intellect. You've lost your wudu. Okay? Someone falls asleep. Also considered to be a form of losing your intellect, so to speak. Okay? And you have lost your wudu. Why do these cases all break your wudu? Because usually when someone, if they were to go insane, or they go unconscious, or they have a seizure, or they fall asleep, usually they can't control their bowels. Either they'll pass wind while they're sleeping, or maybe they'll just lose control of their bowels for a minute if they're unconscious, or if they have a seizure or something like that. Whether it's wind or not wind, the point is, usually when this happens to people, they can't control, they can't hold back whatever's in their bowels, or prevent themselves from not passing wind. So for that reason, if you lose your intellect, if you go unconscious, if you have a seizure, if you fall asleep, all these things break your wudu. All these things break your wudu. Except for one type of sleeping. That type of sleeping, okay, is what? Is if, for example, someone sleeps sitting down and their bottom is firmly planted. All right? So the way, we sit on in a car, for example, or an airplane or a bus, you're sitting in a chair, right? And your bottom is firmly planted on the bottom of the chair. Okay? There's no gaps. You're not sitting on the side where there's a gap between your bottom and the chair. Okay, the point is you're sitting completely planted with your bottom on the ground, on the bottom of the chair. In this case, if you fall asleep like that and you wake up in the same position, you have not lost your wudu. Okay? So for example, you have a long trip, you're in the car, you're not driving, right? Someone else is driving, and you fall asleep in the passenger seat. All right? You're sitting in the chair and you fall asleep. Okay? All right? Your bottom is firmly planted. In this case, when you wake up, you still have your wudu. All right? You still have your wudu. All right? Well, let's say you went to sleep in the chair sitting down. And then you wake up. And you're sitting, like that on your side. Right? Okay? Your bottom is not firmly planted when you wake up. You've woken up in a different position than the one you fell asleep on. Okay? Which means that you might have lost your wudu while you're sleeping, so you have to make wudu again. So you have to make sure you're falling asleep with your bottom firmly planted, and you have to make sure you wake up the way you slept. Meaning, when you slept with your bottom firmly planted, you wake up and your bottom is still firmly planted. Okay? Someone falls asleep in class. Okay? One of the brothers, they're sitting here, they fall asleep in class while they're sitting down. All right? And they wake up, and they're still sitting, but they wake up over there. They still have their wudu. What do you guys think? It was a flat no more, right? Either he got up and walked while he was sleeping, or someone came and picked him up, right? Point is, at some point while he was sleeping, his bottom wasn't firmly planted, so he's considered to have lost his wudu, okay? Someone sits in a way, right, where their bottom is not firmly planted. Like we know the way we sit sometimes with our legs underneath us, like in salah, right? And so your bottom's not on the ground, it's on the soles of your feet. Okay? Like when you're praying. Okay? That is not considered to have your bottom firmly planted. We're talking about your bottom is on the ground or on the bottom of the chair. Okay? All right? So this is something that is extremely useful because a lot of times, imagine you're on a plane, right? Got a long trip ahead of you. Okay? You're on a bus or something, right? Or in a car. And, it's difficult sometimes to make wudu while you're on a trip. The facilities aren't always there. All right, but if you sleep like this, if your bottom firmly planted, you're good. Okay, you're good. All right. If you're not sure whether you fell asleep or not, are you considered to still have wudu? Someone has wudu, okay, and they're just drowsy. They're drowsy. They're nodding off, but they're like, I don't know if I fell asleep or not. They still have wudu.
Yeah.
They still have wudu because they're 100% sure they had wudu, but they're unsure if they fell asleep or not. They might be drowsy, they might be nodding off, but they're not sure if they slept. Considered to still have wudu. Okay? You're considered to still have wudu. All right? Right. Then he says, touching the private parts, front or back of any human, whether oneself or someone else, and whether adult or child, with the palm of the hand or the inside of the fingers, nullifies wudu, even if it be one's own child or a dead person. So the next thing that breaks your wudu is touching the rear or the back private part with the palm of your hand. So the palm of your hand and inside of your fingers, what he's talking about is this. Take your two hands and put them on top of each other like that and press gently. All right? You notice the parts of your fingers and your palms that meet, okay? That's what he's talking about. So he means your inside of your fingers. He means your palm. He doesn't mean these right here in between your fingers. He doesn't mean the tips of your fingers. Everything that if you were to do this and you press gently, if they're touching, okay, that's what he's talking about. Even this little bit right here, it's still considered part of your palm, this fleshy bit between your thumb and your pointer finger. It's part of your palm, but it doesn't meet when you press gently, right? So everything that you have here, if you were to press gently, okay, if this hand touches a private part, front or back, it breaks your wudu. It breaks the toucher's wudu, okay? It breaks the toucher's wudu. So if you touch your own private part, okay, if you touch someone else's private part, okay, whether it's the same gender or not, as long as it is a human being's private parts, okay, a human being's private part, it breaks your wudu, the toucher's wudu, okay, with the condition that you're not wearing gloves or there's no barrier between between your hand and their organ. All right, there's no barrier. If there's a barrier, then you still have your wudu. Okay, you're wearing gloves, or they had a piece of cloth or something, you still have your wudu. Okay, so what's considered a private part? So for a male, the front private part is considered the actual penis. All right, that's it, just the penis. For a woman, the front private part is the part of her private parts that if she were to squat, it would be exposed. Or sorry. For a woman, it's considered her labia. For a woman, it's considered her labia. So if a man touches other than his penis, like for example his pubic area, okay, he would not lose his wudu. If a woman touches other than her labia, okay, again, she would not lose her wudu. All right, she would not lose her wudu. For the rear private part, it's what's called the rectum, all right, which is where excrement comes out of. That's your rear private part. If you touch other than that, someone touches their rear end or something, but they don't actually touch the rectum, they're considered to still have their wudu. Okay, so if you touch your own private part or someone else's private part, the palm of your hand, like you saw, it breaks your wudu. Okay, it breaks wudu unless there is a barrier. So even, for example, someone changes the diaper of a child. Okay, someone changes the diaper of a child and they touch, the child's private part. They have to wipe things, they have to wash things, right? Okay, they lost their wudu. You just make sure you do your wudu again. All right, unless you're wearing gloves or there's some other barrier between yourself and the child's private parts. Okay? So that's what he means when he says that. Touching the private parts, front or back, of any human, whether oneself or someone else, and whether adult or child, with the palm of the hand, the inside of the fingers, nullifies wudu, even if it be one's own child or a dead person. Yeah.
This is only for the one touching.
Only for the one touching. So only the toucher loses their wudu. Okay. Only the toucher loses their wudu. Okay. If you're unsure whether you touched your private part or not, someone took a shower. Okay. They got out of the shower. Okay. They're drying themselves off. All right. And they think they might have touched their private part. They made wudu in the shower, for example. They left the shower and they're like, oh wait, did I just touch my private parts or not? If you're not sure, khalas, you still have wudu. All right. You only lose your wudu when you are 100% sure that you lost your wudu. Okay. That you lost your wudu. All right. Okay. So again, it's only the toucher that loses their wudu. So for example, all right. For example, go ahead.
When you're changing a baby's diaper, if you use a wipe, is that considered a barrier?
Yeah. So the sister asked, she said, if you use a wipe to wipe the baby when you're changing its diaper, is that considered a barrier? It's considered a barrier. As long as it's not skin to skin contact, okay? Gloves, wipes, tissues, cloth, anything, it's all considered barrier. Okay? It's all considered barrier. All right. Then he says, the touching of the skin of an adult male by an unrelated female and vice versa without any barrier nullifies the wudu. However, touching the nails, hair, or teeth do not nullify the wudu. Okay, so now we're talking about something else, which is anytime there's skin to skin contact between two people who can marry each other, this also breaks the wudu of both parties. Okay? Anytime you have a man and a woman who are old and who are not children, okay? Each person has, matured to a point where you can say they're not children, like the masculine traits of beauty are manifest in him, the feminine traits of beauty are manifest in her, okay? So you can say preteens, teenagers, even, definitely, okay? Once these people, if two of them were able to marry each other, touch skin to skin contact, whether it's their palm or just their arms or, chest, feet, face, whatever it may be, okay? If there's skin to skin contact, both parties lose their wudu, okay? Both parties lose their wudu. So it has to be between men and women. So if two men touch each other, no one loses wudu. Two women touch each other, no one loses wudu, okay? So it has to be between man and woman, okay? Not children. So child doesn't break your wudu. We're talking about someone who has matured enough now where you can recognize that this person, okay, like, the masculine traits of beauty are in the boy, the feminine traits of beauty are in the girl. Okay, so preteens probably and going up. All right. If the opposite gender touches that child, that person, they will both lose their wudu. It must be skin on skin. So if there's a barrier, gloves, clothes, anything else, doesn't break your wudu. Okay. The next question is, who's considered marriageable? Okay. So there are 7 people you cannot marry by kin. Okay. Your mother, so we're talking about a man now. A man's mother, and this includes his grandmother and his great grandmother, his great grandmother, both sides. So his mother, his daughter, and this includes his granddaughters. Okay. So any woman who is related to him by lineage going up or going down. Okay. So his mother, his daughter, his sisters, okay, whether they're full sisters or half sisters, point is they're sisters, his sister, okay? Not step siblings, sisters, full or half. So mother, daughter, sister, niece, okay? Whether they are nieces from his brothers or nieces from his sisters. Okay, so any nieces as well don't break wudu. And lastly, any aunts by blood. So we have aunts by marriage, and we have aunts by blood. Aunts by marriage is like your mom's brother's wife, right? Your mom has a brother, his wife. You call her auntie, right? She's your aunt, but she's your aunt by marriage. Okay. We're talking about your aunts by blood. So your father's sisters and your mother's sisters. Okay? So your mother, your daughter, your sisters, your nieces, and your aunts by blood, not by marriage. These women do not break the wudu of a man. So he touches his mother, touches his aunt, touches his sister. There's no wudu lost between either party. So aunts by marriage, if a man touches his aunt by marriage, it breaks his wudu. Okay? If he touches, for example, his cousins, it breaks his wudu. Okay? All right. For a woman, go ahead.
I've heard that there's an opinion that women who have reached menopause, that the rules of touching and wudu, they don't exist. Is that true or not?
So the brother asked, he said he's heard an opinion that a woman who's gotten, who's, for example, menopausal, has matured a lot. If a man touches her, they don't lose their wudu. From what I recall, that is an opinion that was overturned. Okay, that was overturned, and now the reliable position is that any woman, regardless of age, would break a man's wudu. Okay, with the exception of these women that we're about to discuss right now. Okay, so that's for a woman, or for a man. These are the women that a man can touch, and he wouldn't lose his wudu. Now, what about a woman? So her father, which includes her grandparents or her grandfathers. Okay, her father, her son, includes grandsons as well. Okay, her father, her son, her brothers. Again, full brothers are half brothers. Step brothers don't count. All right. Her nephews, whether they are her brother's sons or her sister's sons. And lastly, her uncles by blood, not by marriage. So her father's brothers and her mother's brothers. Okay. These are the men that if she were to touch him, no one loses their wudu. Okay. Why? Again, because she can't marry them. Woman can't marry her uncle by blood. She can't marry her nephews. A man can't marry his nieces, can't marry his sister. So for that reason, okay, there is no wudu lost when these people touch. Okay? But there are also some people that you can touch who are your in-laws that you don't lose wudu. Who are they? For a man, his mother-in-law. Okay, his mother-in-law, his wife's mother. If he touches his mother-in-law, his wife's mother, he does not lose his wudu. All right. If he touches his wife's daughter, his stepdaughter, okay, his stepdaughter, again, he doesn't lose his wudu. All right. If he touches his daughter-in-law, his son's wife, okay, he does not lose his wudu. All right. And if he touches his stepmother, okay, his father's wife, okay, that's not his mother, obviously. His father, for example, his mother passed away a long time ago. His father remarried, okay? This is his stepmother now, okay? His stepmother as well does not make him lose his wudu. So his mother-in-law, his stepdaughter, his daughter-in-law, and his stepmother, all these four women do not break his wudu, okay? Do not break his wudu. For a woman, it's the opposite. So her father-in-law, okay, her husband's father does not break her wudu. Okay, her stepson. So she married a man who has a son from a previous marriage. Okay, her stepson does not break her wudu. All right, her son-in-law. She has a daughter who got married. Her son-in-law does not break her wudu. And lastly, her stepfather. So, for example, her father passed away, or her mother got divorced from him, and she remarried. Now she's a stepfather. The stepfather as well does not break her wudu. So anyone other than these listed people, if someone touches them, okay, they lose their wudu. Notice your spouse is not included in this list. Your spouse is not included in this list, which means that in the Shafi'i madhab, if someone touches their spouse, they lose their wudu. All right. So if you touch your spouse and there's no barrier, you lose your wudu. And in the case of touching between opposite genders, both parties lose their wudu. Okay. Both parties lose their wudu. Now, you might be asking yourself, what happens if you're not sure? Okay. You're in the kitchen with your spouse, helping them out, and you just feel something on your hand. Not on your sleeve, that's a barrier, right? It's okay. On your actual hand, you feel something. You turn, and your wife's hand is there too. Might have hit your hand, might have been her sleeve, might have been the tool she's holding, but you felt something. What's the ruling? You don't lose your wudu because you're not 100% sure it's her hand that touched yours. Okay? It's only when you're 100% sure that her hand touched yours that you lose your wudu. Okay? That you lose your wudu. And it must be skin on skin. Go ahead.
In the case of your spouse, is it the toucher you lose or no? Both of you guys.
In the case of your spouse, both parties lose their wudu. Okay? So when it comes to touching private parts with your hand, only the toucher loses wudu. In this case, when it's opposite genders, okay, marriageable people that you're touching, then both parties lose their wudu. Okay? Both parties lose their wudu. So you are, for example, so look, this is actually a really good point we should bring up. He says here, the touching of the skin of an adult male by an unrelated female, we cover that, right? And vice versa. We cover that, right? Without any barrier, nullifies the wudu. We covered all of that, right? However, touching the nails, hair, or teeth do not nullify the wudu. So if someone touches the nails of another woman, a man touches the nails of a woman, okay, or her hair or her teeth, neither party loses wudu. When is this useful? To know. You're at the cash register, the store. You pay by cash, right? And she's giving you the cashier is a woman who's giving you your change. You do this, and she does that, right? And you felt something. Might have been her nails, might have been her fingers, okay? As long as you're not 100% sure it was her fingers that touched you, the skin on her fingers, you still have your wudu, okay? You still have your wudu, okay? Sound clear?
So it's like the wife is Hanafi and the husband is Shafi'i. I'm just making sure.
Yeah.
Then the wife doesn't have to take wudu, right?
Mhm.
And the husband does.
Yep. So she asked, what happens if the people, spouses are different madhabs? Wife is Hanafi, husband Shafi'i. Okay. They touch. He has to make wudu and she doesn't, which means that he could be praying. She comes up, flicks his ear. Yeah. Flicks his ear. Causes a lot of drama in the house. All right. Any other questions?
What about stepdaughter?
A stepdaughter if you are divorced. What's the scenario?
You are married. They got divorced.
Oh, I see. So a man, she's asking about the scenario. A man marries a woman, okay? And so he married a woman who had a daughter from a previous marriage, right? Okay. He married a woman who had a daughter from a previous marriage. So now she's his stepdaughter. Okay. They get divorced. That's your question. She's still his mahram. It's okay. So even if he still, later on in life, touches her or something after the divorce, neither party loses their wudu. Okay? Yeah.
So you mentioned there's no upper age limit to the touching between different genders.
Yeah, he asked about, is there an upper age limit to touching between genders? There's no upper limit. There's only a lower limit. So if someone's a child, okay, so for example, you're at the street and there's a little girl there, and you hold her hand across the street. It doesn't break your wudu, okay? It's only when someone gets mature enough where you can see, masculine traits of beauty in them, or feminine traits of beauty in them, like a girl, that they break your wudu. A really good measure that you can use is the following. You know that age where, so like as Muslims we have, male gatherings and female gatherings, right? You know that age a boy reaches where you can, if you were to enter an all-female gathering, the women would be shy, right? They would be considering, oh, it's better if he doesn't come. He's getting a bit old now, right? It's like that level of maturity, and vice versa for the men, okay? So notice that's way before like their teens usually, isn't it? Might be 10, 11, 9. It just depends on the child and how they grow up. Some people, mashallah, they develop very fast. And some people, they don't develop as fast, okay? Any last questions? Okay, should we move on? Go ahead.
Did you say after? Okay, if a man was married and he had a stepdaughter, they're no longer married. He couldn't marry the stepdaughter.
So he marries a woman and she has a daughter from a previous marriage. Right. And then they get divorced. and he wants to marry the girl who was his stepdaughter.
Right, I just wasn't sure.
Yeah. In that case, if he consummated the marriage, with the mother, cannot marry that girl. Okay? If he consummated the marriage with that woman, he cannot marry that girl. If he never consummated it, let's say they got married and there was no consummation, he divorced her. If she died or something, then he can marry that girl. Okay? But as long as it was consummated, he cannot marry that girl. All right?
And so, he wouldn't lose fruit if he were to.
So as long as if he touched her, he wouldn't lose his wudu.
And it would be the same for a woman, like stepson.
It'd be the same if it was a woman with an ex-stepson. Yeah. An ex-stepson. A lot of prefixes. Yeah. Ex-stepson. Okay. Anything else? Like, does class end at 12 or before 12? 12. Okay. Okay. So, to summarize what we've learned so far, all right, we talked about what makes someone enter a state of ritual, makes someone enter a state of major ritual impurity, makes them have to perform ghusl, okay? Makes them in a state of janaba. We said that was intercourse, that was emitting sexual fluid, and that was as well if a woman enters period or she enters postnatal bleeding, right? And we said that a ghusl, the minimum for a ghusl is to do what? Is to just wash your entire body from head to toe, make sure everything gets wet. Whether that means you're going to pour water over your head, hop under a shower, go in a bath. The point is every single thing gets wet. The roots of your hair, your scalp, all the hair on your body, all the little nooks and crannies, everything gets wet, okay? And you do that with an intention. Intention is I'm intending a ritual bath for the sake of Allah, okay? But that is the minimum. And we said it's best always to use the bathroom before you do that and to wash yourself to expel any residual fluid in your system. Okay? And then we talked about what makes someone lose their wudu. Someone who lost their wudu. It's due to one of four things. The first one is the emission of anything from the two waste passages, front or back, nullifies the wudu. The first thing is someone uses the bathroom, lack of a better word, okay? Whether it's solid, liquid, or gas, front passageway, rear passageway, normal or abnormal, okay? Someone has kidney stones, someone has blood coming out, someone ate a quarter and a quarter comes out. Point is, if anything leaves the front or the back passageway, that person loses their wudu, okay? Question now. What about discharge? Okay? What about discharge? So discharge has the following ruling. Okay? If it comes from the outer portion of her private parts, okay, which is basically the part that is visible if she were to squat, okay, then she does not lose her wudu from that discharge. If it comes from the part of her private parts that is inside of that, okay, then she would lose her wudu, okay. Right? So if it's from the outside of her private parts, the part that appears if she were to squat, she does not lose her wudu. If it's from inside of that, okay, then she would lose her wudu if that discharge comes out. Realistically, how would you know? You wouldn't really, right? Day-to-day life, you wouldn't really know where it came from, okay? So if you're not sure where it came from, you can assume you still have wudu. You can assume that the discharge is from the outside of your private part, okay? There might be instances where you're 100% sure it came from the inside, right? For example, she sees a doctor and there's a medical procedure or something, right? All right, then she's sure it came from the inside. She's lost her wudu, all right? If discharge comes out, that is. But otherwise, day-to-day life, as long as she's not 100% sure it came from inside, all right, her wudu is fine. Okay, her wudu is fine. All right, but so anything that leaves the front or the rear passageway breaks your wudu, and we spoke about the discharge. Then he says again that the next thing that makes you lose your wudu is losing your intellect, okay, during sleep or otherwise. All right, so we said, remember, if you lose consciousness, you have a seizure, someone goes momentarily insane, someone falls asleep, that they lose their wudu, okay, with the exception of someone falling asleep with their bottom firmly planted, and they wake up and their bottom is still firmly planted in the same position they slept in. Okay? But, and we talked about as well that touching the private parts, whether it's front or back of a human being, with the palm of your hand, which you know by doing this, press your palms together and press slightly. All right? If you touch the front or back private part of a human being with the palm of your hand, the toucher's wudu is lost. The toucher is only, not the person who was touched. So for example, a father is helping his son use the bathroom. Okay? A father is helping his son use the bathroom. Okay? And then so he helps his son and he touches his private part. Okay? While doing that. Who lost their wudu? Both. Why both? I didn't go to the bathroom. Well done. Yeah. So both of them lost their wudu because one guy went to the bathroom. Let's say they didn't go to the bathroom, right? Right? He just touches some private part for whatever reason. He's helping him out, for something. Maybe he's like a baby and he soiled himself or something like that, right? Only the toucher loses their wudu. Like, doctor, someone touches a woman's private parts with the palm of his hand, okay, without wearing gloves. Who lost their wudu? Toucher. Just a toucher. So a man touched a woman's private parts to help her for medical reasons or something, and just has no gloves. Who lost their wudu? Both lost their wudu, right? Both lost their wudu. Why? Because he lost his wudu because he touched her with the palm of his hand. He touched her private parts with the palm of his hand. She lost her wudu because this is a man who's not her father, not her brother, not her uncle, touching her. Okay, touching her. All right?
Does becoming intoxicated alcohol or any other substance break the wudu?
So he asked, is becoming intoxicated with alcohol or other substances break your wudu? It does. Yeah, becoming drunk breaks your wudu. Okay, because you've lost your intellect for a period of time. Okay? All right? Fight. Go ahead.
What about medicine that contains alcohol?
Medicine that contains alcohol. Medicine that contains alcohol and is enough to make you drunk, then it doesn't break your wudu. Yeah. So the medicine has alcohol in it, but you don't actually get drunk from taking it, it does not break your wudu. Okay? It's only if someone becomes intoxicated, whether it's alcohol, anesthesia, right? Someone's in a surgery and they put the mask on them and they go under, right? Okay? All these things that make one's intellect cloudy and they're unable to think normally, they will lose their wudu. All right? Right. So we mentioned that, okay? And we mentioned lastly that if two people who are, so man and woman, there's skin to skin contact, and the both of them are mature enough, all right? And they can marry each other. If this skin to skin contact occurs, that they both lose their wudu. Both parties lose their wudu. We mentioned that. Who is it that you can't marry if you're a man? So if you touch them, you don't lose your wudu. If you're a man, it's your mother, your daughter, your sister, your aunts by blood, and your nieces. And if you're a woman, it's your father, your son, your brothers, your nephews, and your uncles by blood. And also from your in-laws it'd be, for a man it'd be his mother-in-law, his stepdaughter, his daughter-in-law, and his stepmother. Okay? And for a woman it'd be her father-in-law, her stepbrother, her father-in-law, her stepson, her brother, her son-in-law, and her stepfather. Okay? Is that clear? All right. So we'll stop there. We'll take a break, inshallah, and we'll resume third period in a few minutes. Yeah? Okay. How long is the break?
5 minutes usually until the next period.
The next period.
12.
Okay, so we'll have to take a 5 to 10 minute break, inshallah. If someone wants to, freshen up, get something to drink, and we'll resume class after that, inshallah. Okay? We'll end there.